on Friday, you might have seen the news that Matt Hughes, UFC champ, was involved in an accident involving, he was driving a pickup truck, and the truck was struck by a train just outside of his hometown, which is a pretty rural area. It's east of St. Louis. And Pat Miletich knows Matt as good as just about anybody, and Pat is on the phone with us. Hey, Pat.
How you doing, bud?
Good. First off, how is Matt doing?
The initial reports from folks down there, family, stuff like that, was that he, right after the wreck, he was responding somewhat to the paramedics, but I don't even know if that part is true. He's been in a coma, and initial reports were that he was a few days after the wreck. I think it was yesterday, that he was gripping hands, but I don't even think that's true. I do know that he's responding to people tickling his feet.
Okay.
They took him off the ventilator. He was breathing on his own, and then later on in the afternoon yesterday, they put him back on the ventilator just simply because they didn't like his oxygen levels, which obviously you want oxygen levels to be very high, which speeds up healing and recovery.
I was out of town, and the initial reports I said were he was being treated. And I don't know, I described it earlier this morning. I said, when I hear someone is being treated, I picture like them wrapping gauze around a leg or putting an ice pack on your head. That is what I envision treatment to mean. But this is a lot more serious than I think it was initially was described. He had to be airlifted, right, to where? Peoria?
Hospital in Springfield.
I believe Springfield, Illinois, yeah.
So,
the train, what's that? Go ahead.
You've been to Matt's house down there, and that area, it's pretty rural. So what do you know about this, the road and the train? Was there crossing guards? Were there lights? All of that sort of stuff.
Well, I spoke to his brother, and his brother said, he's been over those tracks on that gravel road a million times in his life. Both of them have. And there's a hill, kind of a steep, short hill that goes up onto the tracks, and then you go back down the hill once you cross the tracks. And it's a gravel road. And, from the reports of the conductor, the train was going 47 miles an hour, so it was moving pretty fast. And his brother said, I know exactly what happened. I know my brother. They're twins, obviously, identical twins.
Yeah.
And he said, and the conductor said that Matt had stopped and then tried to get across the tracks. And Mark said, I've done it myself. He said, it was a long coal train down there, and those things are miles and miles long. And Matt probably stopped and said, man, I got to get across the tracks. I don't want to sit here all day waiting on this train. Well, he's on a hill on a gravel road, spun the tires, and didn't make it across the tracks as fast as he thought he was going to go into it. He was in his friend's truck. He wasn't in his F-250, which probably would have flown across the tracks really fast. And Mark basically said, I know my brother that well. I know exactly how it went down.
So, okay.
The tires didn't get across in time and got hit.
You said he stopped, but he didn't stop on the tracks. He stopped.
No, he stopped before the track.
And then gunned it to try and make it across because it's a real long train.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was one of the long coal trains down there. And if anybody's been out in the country and seen those coal trains, they know how long they are. So, yeah, it's unfortunate he the circumstances were what they were, and he didn't make it across the tracks in time.
And did it impact the driver's side or the passenger side?
I'm told that it was the passenger side of the vehicle, but, if he didn't have his seatbelt on out there in the country, who knows? These country boys, they do things a little different sometimes. I'm hoping that, it's neither here nor there. The details. It's just the main thing is that I'm praying that Matt gets better, and I'm hoping to be able to go down there this week and at least visit his room with Jens Pulver and some of the other guys from the old days. All the guys that were fighters on my team and stuff.
Yeah. Well, tell his family we're thinking about. Oh, hi, Pat. It's me, Dwyer. How's it going?
Hi, Greg. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for chatting with us.
Yeah.
Wait, what is that?
I think that says it all.
Listen, there was talk earlier this year that Matt was considering at least one comeback fight. Do you know anything about whether he was starting training for that, or if anything?
No, I don't believe he was starting to train for it. I think Hoist Gracie kind of called him out.
Yeah.
Wanted a rematch with Matt, which it's going to end up the same way. Either way, that rematch, Matt's going to destroy. But obviously that's on hold right now.
Yeah, sure.
So they're doing MRIs, I believe, today to kind of figure out what they're dealing with. There's no considerable pressure in the skull, so his brain's not dealing with that. I believe they have to take the drain tube out of his head to do the MRIs and stuff. And so if they're taking the drain tube out, that means that he's not got considerable swelling and bleeding and stuff. So that's a positive sign at least.
Well, okay. We wanted to hear from you because you're pretty tight with him still, and if anybody would know who I trust, it would be you. So it was rather startling. But I get that these country boys. That's just what you do down there.
I tell you what, and Matt, and the people that know Matt know, and people that had to wrestle with him and train with him in his prime know how ungodly powerful he was and strong and stuff. And so, if anybody's going to survive, running into a train, it's going to be that guy. So, we're hopeful that
hope that's the case.
His country boy strong body recovers from this real well.